Our TRT World's correspondent Nizar Sadawi, who, as you know, was reporting from Gaza for 185 days. He has recently been evacuated, and Nizar joins us now. It's fantastic to have you here, Nizar. So just help us understand what it means then to move 100,000 Palestinians now out of Rafah and exactly to where?
Well, that's actually the $1 million question that every Palestinian has been asking for the past, let me say, at least 3 months or 4 months since Israel started to talk about the invasion of Rafah or starting a ground operation. Now, we all understand that Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, has called Rafah the last stronghold for Hamas. That's why they need to start this ground operation there. The issue here is that Israel cannot simply start this ground operation without evacuating civilian population because of the international pressure. We have to understand this. Now, if we can see a map here, for example, this is Rafah and this is Khan Yunis here. The only area that was still designated as safe from the Israeli army is Al-Mawasi, which is right here, whether in Rafah or in Khan Yunis. Before that, when Israel started these evacuation orders on October 13, to be precise, at the time, Israel invaded Gaza City and the northern areas, and then they did the same in Khan Yunis, but it wasn't as hard because we were not talking about 1.5 million people in less than 64 square kilometers. So that's why they started this time by issuing orders to evacuate people from these areas right here. Another significant point here is the Philadelphia corridor, which extends from this point here and goes with Egypt as well. Now, it seems that there hasn't been any actual Egyptian approval for Israel to start such an operation. We've been talking to people there. Apparently, Rafah crossing and Karem Abu Salem crossing are still partially open. Karem Abu Salem has been shut down yesterday after the attack that killed 3 Israelis and wounded others. But Rafah crossing is actually functioning until this moment. That indicates that people will start actually moving from this area to Al-Mawasi. And another addition is that Israel this time decided to expand what they designate as the safe zone to Khan Yunis and to Deir al-Balah. The issue here is that people cannot actually flee in large groups because Khan Yunis, Deir al-Balah, all areas inside the Gaza enclave had been attacked repeatedly. So Palestinians are very much convinced that there are no safe zones, regardless of what Israel says. Now, that operation, if it starts, if it's not a power play, if it did start, if it does start, it will be an actual catastrophe.
That point, Nizar, a power play. Why is this happening today, do you think?
So, again, Maria, it all depends on the politics. The talks are still ongoing. We have to understand this. We have to keep it in mind, whether in Doha, whether in Cairo. I think Netanyahu's government is facing a great ordeal this time, specifically. They have been talking about Rafah being the last stronghold for Hamas for months now. They have been threatening to actually start such an operation, but nothing happened. I think it's more about the Israeli public for the time being. So they need a change in course. They need to do something on the ground, even if that means...
They need to do something on the ground.
Something on the ground, even if that means not actually starting a ground operation, but, for example, what happened today, issuing evacuation orders, calling the residents, evacuating at least 10 residential blocks on the eastern sides of Rafah. Now, if people actually start to leave, that would give the sense, even to the Israeli public, that the Israeli government and the Israeli army are actually doing something about it, that these are not just empty threats. This is what Netanyahu wants, and this is why it could still be a power play. Hamas, of course, understands all of this. We have 2 bargaining chips for both sides. The hostages, like you and I have been saying, and, of course, the Rafah operation. The only problem, the actual problem when it comes to the ground operation of Rafah is not the operation itself, But because every party there is has been admitting that Rafah is the last stronghold, which means that if that operation starts here in Rafah, the war will be over. And I think that Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, is still interested in prolonging the war, at least until he or his government gets a win.
Nizar, fantastic to hear this from you, and I'm sure our viewers really appreciate your analysis. Nizar Sadawi, thank you so much. All right.